Hello and welcome everyone to the webinar where I'll be going through some of the new features in UBL 530. 530 was released in November. If you've got any questions, please use the questions panel in the GoToMeeting and I'll answer them at the end of the session. Thanks. Okay, I'll go through the new features in UGI first. I've added a new copy and paste context menu to make copying and pasting easier. We've implemented support for blinking or flash attributes, and we've automatically made the ability to convert links like email addresses and web addresses to hot links so that the user can just easily click on them without changing your code. We've also allowed the definition of back tab in the keyboard mappings. This would be typically used for if you've got a non-GUI application and you've got a function key that goes to the previous field in your application, and instead of pressing the function key you want to use the shift tab to go back instead, like you can in a GUI form in UBL. Well, this will let you do that. And another clear all Windows objects when connections lost. This is useful because if the connection gets dropped on a UGI GUI session, sometimes it's difficult for the user to see that the connection's been lost because all the Windows objects are still visible on the screen. So in UGI 530 we've made it actually clear all the Windows objects when the connection's lost, so it's more obvious to the user that something's gone wrong and they won't carry on typing any data into the form. And we've also added the ability, well, we've improved the customizations in UGI to allow you to add icons and splash screens to make UGI fit in more with your product. Oh, excuse me. I'll show you some of these features now. So I'll just bring up the new UGI. Okay, so this is an example of the hot link there. It automatically picks out the web address, and also this is the context menu. So if I select something, I can just right click and select copy or copy and paste. It just makes it a bit more convenient to use. One thing to note is that one criticism I got when I originally did this is that the right click was actually very sensitive. So if you move the mouse while you're right clicking and it wouldn't actually pick it up, the mouse needs to be completely stationary. But I have actually fixed that since, so I've made it less fussy now. So if you go onto the FTP site in the UGI area, there's actually a hotfix there with the less sensitive right click option. Okay, and the next thing I'll show is the new blinking attributes. So I'll run TDF test. So these are all the current attributes that UGI supports and has always supported. But the blink, we've never up till now supported it actually flashing. So now it still doesn't do it by default, but if you go into the preferences, colors, attributes, you can select which attributes you want to actually blink with this new flag here. So I'll just select all the blinking ones. You don't have to do all of them, you can just do the ones you want. So I'll leave the last one. And now as you can see it starts flashing. Okay. Right, clickable hot links. I've already showed that slightly. I'll show some more examples here. So this is just a simple program that just does prints to the screen, but UGI can automatically pick out the fact that there's an email address here. So if I click that, it'll open my email client. If I click this, it'll open up the browser. And also it works with Messenger and call to if your machine actually supports that. As we can see here now, I've gone to the browser. Okay, and I'll show the the back tab now. Okay, so I'll go into TDF test. So what I'll do in the keyboard mappings, I'll pretend that the application, I'm pressing F1 now, and F1 returns this sequence here. So what I'll do, I'll pretend that our application uses F1 to go back through the fields, so that you'd have obviously coded that in your application. So this is how I'd make the Shift Tab key do the same thing. So I'll add a key, and I'll select the tab and the shift, so it's now Shift Tab, and OK, and send. Now I'll put the native VT escape sequence in for F1, which is escape, open square bracket, 1 tilde. So I'll do that. Okay, so now, if I press Shift Tab, it actually returns the same key. So that's all that is really. And the last feature I'll show here is the, oh no, not the last one, the clear all Windows objects when the connection's lost. So I'll just show you that quickly. So say if you've got some Windows up here and suddenly you lose connection, I'll demonstrate that by using the UBL mon. I'll just kill the task off using the delete option. The delete on Windows is similar to kill -9 on Unix, so it doesn't really let the application clean up properly. So really you'd want to use terminate, but in this case we're going to delete it or kill it uncleanly. And as you can see, the connection's lost and all the windows have been cleaned up. Okay, so the customizations, oh, I don't really want to save that. The customizations, so to control that, you need to go into the registry, bring up the registry editor. Now in the UGI key in PageKey local machine, this is all documented in the manual, but if you create a customize key, then you can add all these bits of information, and you can change the icon file, you can change some of the text that goes in the about box, you can change the title of the UGI session and the logon prompt for UBL. So now that this customizer is active, I'll bring up UGI. And as you can see, the splash screen has been changed, and the icon there has got a picture of a tomato for some reason. And there we go. I've changed the login title on UBL. And also the about box has been changed, and you can put your own text in there to suit your application. Okay. Okay, the first feature in UBL itself I'll talk about is the viewing of the swap stack. So to enable this, you have to set bbmon swap stack equals y when you actually start the runtime. It's no good setting it in an individual UBL session. It has to be set when starting the runtime. That's the only time it's ever started. But once you've got that set, you can bring up the UBL monitor and you can view the swap stack of any job that's running. So I'll show that on Unix first. Let's see now. No, I don't want to do that. So I'll log on to my Linux machine. And I'll bring up UBL mon. You must use the -W switch for it to be in Windows mode. It's only supported in the Windows mode. So you go into report status, into the jobs, and then now I can, if I press the S key, it dumps the swap stack of that particular UBL job. So you can see the first program it was in Scratch, and then it did a swap to TDF test, and then TDF mod, etc. And I can do the same with this. Ooh, same with that job. And you can do the same thing on Windows. So on Windows, there's a new button here, Swap Stack, so you can click on a job and you can press the Swap Stack, and then you can see immediately the Swap Stack there. And it works with shared procedures as well. If there was a shared procedure in there, it would show that. Okay, I will change my registry back because I don't want to see that picture of the sheep all the time. So I'll just bring it back to the standard UGI settings. Okay, there's a new rich edit command been added to UBL. So it allows you to, it's similar to the edit box, but it allows you to actually format the text. You can change fonts, colors, and you can control the fonts and colors, etc. with the set GUI up 70 command. So I'll show an example of that now. So I'll run my program. So this is the edit box here, the rich edit box, and it's got a built-in spell checker. So you can see it's highlighted this word here that's spelled incorrectly, and it can also suggest. There you go. If I right-click on a word, it suggests what the correct spelling is. And I can also change the font here. I'll select some text here. And with the set GUI up now, I can change, for example, the font of that. So set GUI up, the parameter, the first one will be the ID of the box, which in this case is 1. And I can type in font. I'll change it to font band 20. There we go. And I can change, if I select some more text, I can change the color of it. So I'll do the set GUI up 70 again. Color dark red. There we go, it's changed there. And you can also set styles like bold, underline. And with the set GUI up 70, you can actually use several commands in the same line. So I can type in bold, underline, italic. I could actually change the font as well in that same command. And you can also use the set number command to position the caret to anywhere you'd like in the control, to the end or the start. Okay. Switchable GUI modes. Sometimes it's quite useful if you've developed some of your forms, some of your UBL programs with graphical Windows objects, but some forms you haven't. It might be useful for you to switch in between the two modes in UGI, which I've not been able to do up to now. But now I'll show you an example. I run TDF test. So if I show the normal, this is the normal graphical Windows in UGI. Now if I exit the program, type in the GOF command, which is graphics off, run the program. Now if I run the same option, you see they're displayed without the graphical options. Oh, I seem to have a display issue there. I think the TDF's not set up. Well, not TDF, the emulator colors aren't right. And I can switch it back on with the GON command, run the same thing. And there we go. Okay, I've done some changes to the hotspot commands. So I'll just demonstrate that. Okay, so previously we've had a color hotspot, which you can change to any color you like with the hotspot attribute command. We've had a 3D hotspot type, which is just like a 3D button type look, and an invisible hotspot. There's one actually here, even though you can't see it. And so we've added these two new types of hotspots. One's a 3D border and one's a flat border. And also we've changed add a mode so that you can tell it to change the cursor to a hand like it is now when the mouse is over it. You don't have to have this, but it comes on if you set the bit. So as you can see, where I am here, there's an invisible hotspot, and it's changed the cursor to a hand. And also we've added the ability to select the text on the invisible hotspot through it, which you couldn't do previously. So I can do that, copy. And so you can see here, I'm pressing on the hotspot, it's sending the cursor positioning back to the UBL program. Okay, and another interesting thing we've done with the hotspot is we've added the ability to be able to scroll them up and down with the W scroll commands. So I'll show an example program we did demonstrating this. Some of you may have seen this if you've been looking at our at the UBL blog. I've actually posted the source code to this program online for you to have a look at. But basically it's a colourful grid with the ability to change entries. If I click on an entry there, I can type over it, modify the grid. I can scroll the grid up and down. I can page up, page down. So each cell can have a different color depending on what your program wants to have. So in here, for example, I've anything that's zero values I've indicated with a red, and all male contacts are blue and female are pink. So this program uses the new 3D look hotspots to draw the hotspots, and also it uses an edit box. When you click on it, it uses an edit box to actually accept the input. So if I do that, it accepts the input with an edit box. And also the up and down, it scrolls it with the W scroll command. So feel free to have a look on our blog to see the source code of this program and download it yourself and have a play around with it yourself. Okay, new set GUI up to 69 to force focus to Windows objects. This is if you're using Windows objects to create forms. So I'll show an example of a typical program. This is the GUI demo that we ship with UBL 520 onwards. So in here, you select focus on one of these edit boxes, but if you click off onto the background panel, focus goes to the background panel because that's normal UBL behavior. But that's not really what you may want in a typical Windows application. So you may not actually want the user to be able to focus on the background at all. So all I need to do to stop that now is just edit the program, just add a line onto the end here. Set GUI up 69.1 to switch it on. Run the program now. And if I click off the field now, it won't let me set focus to the background panel. So it just makes it more Windowsy. Okay, we've done some changes to the Unix platforms, mostly due to some of them being very old and been out of support by the manufacturer for a long time, and also to make it easier for our changes to dynamically link app integrate or TCA shared objects into UBL. So we've dropped scope and server 506 and dropped Unixware, and it's been replaced with scope and server 6. So So scope and service Unixware can run scope and server 6 binaries, so we didn't really need that now. And we've dropped AX 2.3, which is very old, and now we're building on AX 5.3. And there's been no change to the other platforms. Okay, some other features in UBL. We've improved the file in use error checking on Windows. Previously, we used to use sudo inodes to create an inode from files open in UBL. That is, basically it runs a hashing algorithm on the actual full path of the file name to try and produce a unique ID that distinguishes that file from another file. But that's not been entirely accurate in the past, because sometimes it can give conflicting numbers with two files, so you'd get erroneous file in use errors. In the past, we've also given the option to use OX exclusion registry settings, so that UBL no longer does the file in use checking itself. It passes it down to the operating system. But there is a problem with that, in that if you bring up UBL Mon, you can no longer see the file table. You can't see the files that you've already got open in UBL. So in the 5.30 release, we've actually changed it so that it uses the equivalent of proper Windows inodes, so that you can no longer get this erroneous file in use, and also you can always see your files in the UBL Mon file table. One thing this does mean is that the Windows inodes are bigger than what the sudo inodes were, so we've actually had to make changes to the UBL runtime. So this is one of the reasons why the 5.30 runtime is no longer compatible with the previous 5.20 runtime. And another thing also is the the chfreeze command. You need to use 4 extra bytes per file, per channel rather, to save the information, because obviously there's more information to save. But to save you changing your programs, this feature is actually switched off by default. So by default, it just works like it did before with the sudo inodes. So unless you set ubln to your real inodes equals y, you won't get this feature. And the reason is because we don't want you to have to change your programs to add the extra 4 bytes to chfreeze. But if you're willing to do that, or don't use chfreeze, then by all means use it. Okay, we've also increased the maximum file name length from 63 characters to 256. That's the file name you can open, open file. We've added, we've changed the security on the program save files to be more secure. The old BB key mechanism wasn't very strong. It didn't take much effort to crack the code on it. But the new method is much more secure. But it does mean that the 5.30 save files are not compatible with 5.20 save files. You can always load an old save file into the new version of UBL. That will work fine. It's just that if you save a program in UBL 5.30, you won't be able to load it into 5.20. There is actually a undocumented feature called BB secure key equals n. That's an environment variable. If you set that, then it is backwards compatible, but it doesn't use this secure BB key. So if you want to use 5.30 to create the old style save files, you set BB secure key equals n in your BBM file. Okay, we've also changed the way App Integrate is linked into the product. Previously it was statically linked, so the version of UBL had to have a particular version of App Integrate or TCA linked into it, but now we dynamically link it. So this means that you need to set the LD library path to point to the path where the TCA libraries or App Integrate libraries exist. This is all documented in the release notice, so it's not much of an extra step to do, really. Added a reset counter to the sys29 command, and we added a set GUI get GUI up 45 to return a printer name to match the set GUI up 45. And we've also added the ability to hook into DB Integrate data sync directly from UBL. So I'll just talk a little bit about DB Integrate and data synchronization in UBL. So DB Integrate is our data integration suite. Amongst other things, it can perform ETL, extract, transform, load of your data, and data synchronization. UBL now integrates directly with DB Integrate to perform data synchronization. That is, UBL can automatically inform DB Integrate of any changes your application makes to your ISAM data, so that you can keep an entirely separate database up to date behind the scenes. This diagram explains a bit about the architecture. The business application is your UBL and the operational data is your ISAM files. There's no code changes required for your UBL program. The updates are sent via a message queue to the DB Integrate server, which can then keep, for example, a data warehousing database up to date. So to set up data sync, what you need to do is upgrade to UBL 530 and USQL 510. Make sure you can access your UBL data files via USQL. Then set the environment variable bbdbi to y in your BBM. There is some configuration to set up in the dbsync ini file. This mostly consists of details of where the message queue resides. The rules.txt file contains a list of the files and actions that you want UBL to notify DB Integrate of any updates to. On the DB Integrate side, we need to install DB Integrate on the message queue, set up data sources, create data load projects, and create data sync projects. I'll show some a data load and a data sync project in a second. DB Integrate uses a robust message queue called RabbitMQ. It can handle high volumes of traffic and situations like network dropouts where the UBL client loses contact with a message queue. It will store up the messages in such situations and then send them when the connection does finally re-establish. You can choose to use a disconnect file where messages will be written to a file so that it can handle greater periods of disconnection times. You can also pause the CDC processing on the server for maintenance without affecting the UBL application. The messages are stored up until CDC is unpaused. Projects on the DB Integrate side can be set to start up automatically, so if the server is rebooted, CDC processing will start automatically. So I'll just give you a quick demonstration of that. So I'll just log on to our Unix machine. So I'll bring up my application here. So I'm going to go into the customer maintenance screen. So here is our UBL application showing our customer maintenance. Now, if I bring up DB Integrate now, right, this is my mapping job that takes data from the UBL customer table. So I can view the data here directly from UBL in DB Integrate. Let me clear the target first. What I want to do is I want to take all the UBL data and put it in a SQL server table here. So in this server table there's nothing in it, no rows. So this mapping job is a DB Integrate job, and I'll just show you that quickly. Basically, this is the UBL data, and you can just drag fields and drop them on the source target, on the target table that you want to map the fields. and you can perform processing if you like. So if you wanted to split up the name into surname and first name, you could do that with the processing functions, but I'm not going to go into that in a minute. So once you've got your job set up, I can run it now to initialize the database. So the green shows that it's running. Here we go. Right, so it's written the records to the target. So if I look at those records, so it's taken all my UBL data and put it into the SQL Server database. But what I want to do now, I want to continue to update this database on the SQL side with any changes in the UBL side. So what I've got here is my data synchronization job. So I'll now run this. So this will now monitor UBL for any changes that happens on the UBL side, and it will apply those changes to the SQL Server database. So message queue's paused at the minute, so I'll just release that. So I'll start the CDC processing. And you can see on the diagram it's continually monitoring it. So back to the UBL application on Linux. I'll view another record. What I'll do, I'll add a record. I'll C1025. So it does not exist when I create it. Yes, please. Just put some code in there. Update changes, yes. Okay, so if I switch back to DB Integrate now, you can see that one record's been inserted and one record's been updated. So let's have a look at those. So if I scroll down to the bottom, I can see my new record here. So when the application first created a blank record, and then it actually updated it, which is why there's one insert and one update. So you can see that the change is there now. So also if I amend a field, so I'll amend this to switch back to DB Integrate. You can see that 2 records have been updated. So now if I execute this again, you should see the changes that's been made. There we go, to Cloud Street. And also if I delete the record, I can make the same thing happen. Yes, one record has been deleted, so now if I fetch it again, the record's gone. Of course, you don't have to make it delete records from the target table. You can actually make it do whatever you like on the SQL database. I can make it actually, instead of deleting the record from the table, I could make it add the record to another table, so you could have a list of records that have been deleted, for example. Okay, so that's just a quick demo of the data synchronization on UBL. So the key benefits are improved operational efficiency, enable new solutions, improve agility and decision making, and crucially there's no code changes to the UBL. It's easy to implement and it doesn't impact on the UBL application performance. Okay, that's it. I'll just check to see if there's any questions. If you just bear with me. Okay, I've got no questions, so thanks for attending, and I'll be running another webinar in 2 weeks' time for our mobile application development. So please tune into that. Thanks. Bye.